Today we are celebrating Dr. Seuss's birthday a week early, and we're going to be making my Dr. Seuss cake pops. And I'm super excited about them because they're really easy to make, they're really fun, and I need new pictures for my website anyway, because the last time I made these was, I tend to make them every year, but the last time I took pictures of them was back in 2012. So you can do a couple different things for the filling. Today I'm going to be doing Oreo truffles in the center. I prefer Oreo truffles to the center to traditional cake pops because I just do. All right, if you are watching and everything is working okay for you and you can see everything, please let me know in the comments so that I know that everything is working okay. Yes, so traditional cake pops are made of taking a cake or cake scraps, crumbling them up and adding just enough frosting to bring it together into a consistency that's kind of between, not as thick as Play-Doh, but not as soft as like cookie dough, kind of a nice in-between texture there where it's firm enough that you can shape it and mold it. When I do have cake scraps, which I do a lot because of all the cake carving I do, when I do have cake scraps, my kids eat them before I really get a chance to make anything with them. And I'm all about texture, and for me, I want my cake to be moist, but I don't need my moist cake moistened even more. I'm just not a fan of traditional cake pops. Like, there's just something about it that I just don't find appealing. So what I always do instead of using cake and frosting is I do Oreo truffle filling, which is crushed Oreos and cream cheese. And so as soon as I get this pulled up, there we go. That is what I'm making today. So I have my food processor. Now you can use a gallon-sized bag and a rolling pin and crush the Oreos that way, but I like to get it a little bit finer, and so food processor works great for that. And you can use any flavor of Oreo. Earlier today, the pre-batch that I made is mint, and this is peanut butter. So this is a normal-sized container, which is about 30 Oreos. So if we're going to crush these first. And you can stop it and check it every so often. You want to make sure that you're getting it pretty crumbled. I want it a little bit finer than this. All right, let's check that now. All right, so that is nice, good, and powdery. Now, depending on your filling thickness, if you're using like, I find that the mint and the peanut butter are a little bit thicker than traditional Oreos, so they're already a little bit more, Jill said stop using the word moist, but I don't know the other word to use there. They're a little bit, not wet, not wetter, but anyway, they don't need as much cream cheese. Let's just put it that way. So traditionally the Oreo recipe that the Oreo website gives is 36 Oreos to 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, but I find that that's a little bit, that creates too wet of a mixture, and I don't like it. I feel like you can't shape it as well. And so what I do is I crush, so this is a normal sized container of Oreos, not family sized, which is 30 Oreos, not 36. The family sized gives you 39, so there's that. I'm going to take my softened cream cheese and I'm going to cut it in half. And we're going to add that to the food processor. Now, you can use just a bowl and a spoon and your arm muscles. You can use your hand mixer to mix these together. You can use your stand mixer to mix these together. Or I already have the food processor dirty, so I'm just going to keep using the food processor. So that is starting to come together, but it's still not quite together enough. right? I can squeeze it together and it's holding its shape, but it's still just a little bit crumbly, especially when it's chilled. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Now, normal flavored Oreos, not double stuffed, but just normal Oreos, you can get away with using a little bit more cream cheese because they don't have quite as much filling, but that's why I like to add this a little at a time until it's the texture that I want. Sometimes you need to make sure you get that cream cheese down in the bowl a little bit. This little handheld food processor is really nice for videoing, but it's not quite as strong as my big, huge food processor, so sometimes it struggles a little bit. I have 4 food processors, all different sizes. Come on. And this is just not wanting to mix up. You gotta love days like that. Now you can see why you definitely want your cream cheese to be room temp. That's right, Jill. Don't forget 3 Bosches. 4 food processors, 3 Bosches, 2 Instapots. When it starts to kind of ball up in the machine, that's when you know you're getting close. All right, almost done. Let's check the texture now and see what we think. There's just this last little ribbon of cream cheese. It's not quite mixing in, but you can see it's a lot, it's holding itself together a lot better now. And it's not too wet, but it's also not too dry. It's not getting super crumbly as I shape it. This is actually really good. I just want that last ribbon of cream cheese to get mixed in here, but I should have just gotten the Big Daddy food processor out. You think, oh, I'm going to be all cute and little for the video. Alright, so I ended up using 6 ounces of cream cheese for these 30 Oreos. So again, don't just throw in the whole 8-ounce block, you might have some problems like I did earlier today when I did that. Alright, so now what you want to do is set this aside. We're going to take this mixture and I'm going to put it in the fridge. And I like to chill mine before I shape it. And for like about, I don't know, an hour. So, put some plastic wrap on that. Put it in the fridge. And we're going to get out the one I made earlier today. Alright, so now we're going to shape these. Here is, you can see the texture of this now that it's chilled. It's a little bit firmer. Sorry, I just washed my hands. It's a little bit firmer, but it still holds its shape really, really well. So that all the hats are about the same, I like to use the scoops for my base so that I know that everything, yes, same amount. So first I just roll it into a ball to get rid of any cracks, to kind of make it more pliable. I'm going to roll it a little tube shape All right, so this is going to be the base of our hat. Have some parchment paper, and I'm just going to set it down on that, and then just repeat. So again, I like to use a scoop. It's the same shape and size. Roll it into a ball to make it pliable. Shape it into a tube, and then flatten the ends. Now I'm going to go a little taller than I want the final product to be, because as this sits in the fridge, they are going to squish down a little bit, and if I start at that height, I'm going to have problems later. So a little on the tall side, but not so tall that it topples over, because we do want the base to stay flat. We don't want to put these in the fridge like that, or you'll get a flat tube. Yes, I agree, Amanda. Oreo truffles are so delicious and so good. How do you get in touch with me? Joseph, my email is ashlee@ashleemarie.com. What happened to your hair? Nothing. It's just a little longer than it was last week. Everything's good. Thank you so much, Katie. I'm so glad that the audio and everything is working out. I appreciate that. All right, so again, tube, flat ends. Oops. Again, we don't want that to fall over. So if you need to flatten it a little bit more, you can. And just repeat until you're done. Now you can use any flavor of Oreo with this. If you're going for a lighter color, you might want to consider using like the lemon or the vanilla cookies, so that you have a lighter base underneath. Yes, we are covering these with white, but there's also going to be red, and I prefer the chocolate Oreos. So these are actually, this earlier batch that I made from today is the mint. I love the mint. Tammy and Ashley, yes, the Bosch is amazing and totally worth it. Susan, I love my Bosch. Fed, hi, welcome, welcome. Margaret, yummy, yes, they for sure are. Jill, look, you have a little top fan badge next to you. Okay, so that is what we do for that. I'm going to skip ahead now. And I like to put these in the fridge and get out the ones I already had refrigerated. So as you can see, so these have been refrigerated, so they are a little bit firmer, which will make them easier to dip in the chocolate. And you can see where this sat on this end, and it's gotten a little bit fatter as it's kind of squished. I'm going to make that the top of my hat later, so I'm okay with that. And then I have some white candy melts that I melted for this. I'm actually going to put it back in the microwave for just a second, because I melted this earlier for an earlier batch, and it's just slightly cooled down. Let me give that like 30 seconds, not much. So I have two different options when it comes to dipping. Now if I dipped these fresh ones, as I held them or tried to dip them, I would just start to squish them, right? And that would be a problem. You would lose that hat shape that we're going for. And if you tried to put this on a stick and dip it while it's still fresh like that, it would just fall off or get goopy or get droopy. So that is why you want to make sure that you chill them before you dip them into the chocolate. Okay. Now this is more pliable. So you have a couple different options for dipping this. You can just hold it, finger and finger, and dip it in. This is definitely the messier option, but you have a lot more control when you're holding your desserts. Now notice all that from when shaking it off, the excess chocolate gives you that little drip on this side, so always make sure to flip it over and give it a little shake to smooth that out before putting it back on the parchment paper. And because we're going to be covering the ends with another color, I'm not too worried about the ends being messy, but I do kind of smooth it out a little. So let's do this way again. Be careful not to squeeze in. Even though these are chilled, you can still squish these a little bit too much. So shake off the excess, flip over, and shake to smooth off that dripping. So I like the control that I have when I hold them. The other option is, hold on, I'm gonna wash this chocolate off my fingers. But the other option is to use a toothpick and just to stick the toothpick into your chilled pop and dip it around and shake off the excess and keep turning as you do so that again you don't get that ridge, and when you're done flip it over and shake. Now the problem with this method, I like that it's nice and clean, but sometimes that toothpick can start to spin within the pop, and then as you're trying to spin off the excess, it doesn't turn, right? Because the toothpick's spinning but the pop isn't. Like this, I'm spinning the toothpick, but I can tell that the pop isn't actually spinning. So that's the negative to this, because then one side gets really thin and the other side gets thicker and has that thing. So then you still have to get your finger in there and, oops, to try to smooth it. So it has its plus and minuses both ways. So I would say try both. If you don't mind getting dirty and you like the control of the first method, go with that. If you find that your pops aren't spinning too badly and you can get away with this method, you can go ahead and do this. Oops, I didn't shake off enough. If you're getting drippage down the sides of your pop, that means you didn't shake off enough of that chocolate. And there's really no rhyme or reason to when they spin and when they don't spin. So there's not like a trick to getting it not to spin. Flip. And then just keep going. And then when you are, when you're done with this, that is when you want to put them back in the fridge so that that white chocolate can get firm before we move on to the next ones. All right, so I'm going to put these back in the fridge. Hold on, I'm going to do one more. And then we'll move on to the red. Now you can see already how much shorter they look since they've kind of, oh, this one's not spinning either. There we go. How much shorter they've gotten as they settle in the fridge, and you can see why. You want to make sure that you give, that you make them tall enough that they can handle a little squashing, right? And here are some white ones that I dipped earlier. Okay, so now I'm going to set aside the white candy melts, and I always use the extra bright white because the normal just vanilla candy melts are a little bit yellow, and I definitely want white, so recommend the ultra bright whites. All right, so now we have our red candy melts, and what you want to do is determine which side of your hat is going to be the top and which is going to be the bottom, right? So because this already has that flat going on from it, I'm going to keep that at the bottom. So I'm actually going to dip the top first. Just going to go straight down a little bit so I get as straight a line as possible. As soon as it stops, you don't get any more big drips, I'm going to quickly flip over and shake again to smooth that out, right? Put that down. And repeat. Go straight down. Shake off the extra as soon as you're done with the big drips. Flip quickly. What you want to avoid is as you're shaking it off and you're getting like ribbons of the chocolate, you don't want to, let's see. I'm like, do I do a bad one just to show you what I'm talking about? I guess I probably should. All right, so if you dip this and you shake and you flip like slowly, you can get a line down your hat. And we don't want that because we're trying to get nice lines, right? Margaret, in between each layer, I usually just work with like 2 plates at a time. And as I finish one plate, the other plate is ready. It's just a couple of minutes. It's really not very long at all. You need to worry about this. So straight down. Shake off the extra. And that's also why you don't want to turn while you're shaking, because you'll tend to get uneven drips. And you don't want that. All right, I'm going to do a few more. Now notice I'm not doing the top and the bottom stripes at the same time. Oops. Oh, be careful as you put them back on your plate. And be careful not to get like red candy on your fingers and then transfer that to the white, like right there. Make sure you're keeping everything as clean as possible. Also, you want the surface to be nice and smooth because that will give you a better line around your hat. And just keep going. I'm going to do a couple more, and then we're going to do the bottoms. All right, there are a couple different options when it comes to doing the hat rims that I'm going to talk about. Oh no, I just made a line. Maybe space yours out on your plate a little bit more so you're not accidentally touching them constantly. Oh, and be careful as you're shaking not to overshake, because you can get that same, if you're whipping really far, you can get chocolate like whipping up the sides, which you don't want. So keep it low, close to the chocolate, get rid of the major drips, and then flip quickly, shake, and move on. Okay. So now talking about the brim of our hats is going to be white. So I have these little parchment squares, and we're going to put some white chocolate on them. Now you can take some of your white chocolate and just plop it down. And just shake it until it gets white enough, or even kind of turn your parchment paper until it gets big enough and white enough. But that can be kind of a pain. So anyway, then in this case I'm going to take my hat, dip the bottom straight down into the red, shake off the excess, and set it right down inside that circle. But notice by adding that chocolate as it's wet, it's spreading into my white, which I do not want to do. So if you're going to go that method, let's dip some of these bottoms and set them aside so I can try that again. And shake off the excess. I'm actually going to scrape off the bottom because we don't need the bottom to be as smooth. So shake, shake, shake. Unlike the top, we don't need the red to completely cover the bottom. A couple more. All right, let's try this again. Okay, there are a couple different methods for this. One is to dip your hat and just put it straight on here. And I'm going to use a piping bag. So I'm going to take my piping bag and I'm going to fill it with some of my melted white chocolate. For this to work, make sure that you either use fresh white chocolate or just watch out, because sometimes in your white chocolate you will get little Oreo crumbs like that, and you do not want that in your piping bag. So you can also actually just throw some of the wafers into a piping bag and melt directly in the bag, but be careful because your bag can get hot. So I have some melted chocolate in my bag. I'm going to cut off my tip, and this is why I have it here. I'm going to use my turntable to turn my hat while I pipe some chocolate. And then shake my surface to smooth out the brim. So that is another way of doing this. So we're going to try both again. So, and then the third way is to kind of do a mixture of the two. Take your bag and then just pipe your circle. Give it that shake. Try to keep it as round as possible. And then put your hat down in the middle. Make sure you get it wide enough if you're going to do this method, which I did not. And the reason for this is simply that you're going to use less chocolate if you're not filling up that circle completely. So just something to think about. Put that down in there. So, three different ways to make your brims, however you like. So, we're going to go through all three again. Hold on, I'm going to add some more red to the bottom of these real fast. There we go. So, we love Dr. Seuss and Dr. Seuss birthday at our house. So, these are a fun annual tradition. And they're easy enough that even your kids can help with them, which I love, that it's not a super hard or challenging thing to make something cute and themed, because I am all about cute themed food. Oh, I ran out of the ones with the tops. I just did it again, even with all the warning. This is one reason not to try to rush. Alright. Doing a couple more tops, hats. Slimy slime. How do you make it so the cake pop doesn't fall off the stick when you go to dip it in the candy melts? If you're making a candy melt that you want to be on the stick at the end, you dip the stick in some of the chocolate first, then press it into the pop, and then you want to let that chill so that that chocolate sets before you do any dipping. You don't want to just put it on the stick and dip it right away, if that makes any sense. Okay, so brim of the hat. First method, take some of your melted chocolate, put it on your parchment square, and I'll often do this on just a cookie sheet, so you can just shake the cookie sheet real good. Try to keep this round. You can kind of move the parchment square around a little to get it that way. And then take, oh, my doorbell is ringing, hold on. Take your top and bottom hat and just stick it right in the middle. Okay, once you stick it in there, I give it another shake just to keep it nice and smooth. Alright, so second method is starting with your pop already on the tray and using a piping bag, pipe your brim around, trying to hold your hand as still as possible to keep your brim nice and even. When you're not trying to talk and teach at the same time, you can probably go a little faster. All right, so then that gets that nice and smooth and even. And the third method again. Yes, you could totally put a paper template underneath here if you want. And there is like no right or wrong to any of these. It's just personal preference. I've tried them all. I've used them all at various times. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of depends on the day and how I'm feeling. So I do like this method, this third method, if I'm going to be putting these on pops, because, let's see if I can find the last one. So here's the last one that I did with this method. It leaves less chocolate for me to push. Come on, focus. It leaves less chocolate for me to push a pop through. Now if I'm just leaving them, as is, then it doesn't really matter as much which method that you use. So go through all three one more time, and then the first ones will be hard enough that we can stick some on pops and see what that looks like. Okay, so plop some on. Shake it. Try to keep a circle going. Add finished pop. The negative to this first way is that you don't really know the size pop that you're putting on, and so you might accidentally make your rim too big, right? So that's the only concern that I have with that method to think about. All right. Second method, where this method is one of my favorites because I feel like with the pop already on, I can see the brim size really good, so I feel like I get a better brim width when I do this, but it's also the slowest method, right? So that's the negative of this method. And then this one is nice, the final method is nice because, again, you use less chocolate, but again, you don't know the brim size. You might be going too big, you might be going too small. It's just kind of guesswork. But it's also fairly quick. Oops. There we go. All right, so that is all three methods for how long I do that. And I just let this set. Now I keep my cake pops in the fridge, the Oreo pops, just because I like the Oreo truffles chilled with a hard chocolate shell, but they don't have to be at this point. Once they're completely encased in chocolate, they don't have to be refrigerated anymore. I would refrigerate them if you're not eating them within like an hour, just because they do have cream cheese in them, but you can at this point leave them out. So let's get a pretty plate and put some on a plate and look at a final shot. All right, grab the plate that my son made me. See if any of these are done enough to, and then they should, if they're, once the chocolate's set, they should just peel right off that parchment paper. Whoa, look how wide this brim got. I think that one's not quite done yet. This is done enough. Okay. Make a pretty final shot. So you can just serve them like this, as flat little hats with the really wide brims. Or you can, of course, put them on pops. So like I was just mentioning, what I would do is dip the pop in a little bit of the white chocolate or the red chocolate, flip over one of your hats, and just press through the chocolate. There we go. And then you can sit this in. Oh no. Usually keep a little thing around. Hold on. I know right where it is. I'm coming. Flour foam. Just stick this in a flour foam and let it cool. And then you have pops that you can put in a cute little jar and share. Like that. So those are the two ways to serve them. Plain or as a pop. Either way, it's just fine. Actually, what if someone dips their sticks in chocolate and then stick it in the pot? You've been wondering that for a long time. Because the chocolate will, if you just, here, we'll go to these unfinished ones. Let's say you just stick this right into the Oreo mixture, right? As soon as you dip this in the chocolate, the weight of the chocolate on the pop will just pull that right out. But if you dip the pop in chocolate first and then press it in, that chocolate is going to, and then let this sit completely and get totally firm. This chocolate will then hold the pop in place so that as you dip it in the melted chocolate, the pop's not going to fall off. So that's why you want to do that first. Now because we are dipping these pops top and bottom in the red chocolate dye, I don't start these off as pops, because if you stop them off as pops, you're not going to be able to then dip the bottom half in the red. Now you could, if this was on a pop already, right, you could, I guess, just pipe the red around the bottom. Come on, focus there. You could pipe the red around the bottom, but I like being able to just dip this in the chocolate. I feel like you get a nice straight line on the hat that way. So that's why I don't recommend starting these as pops. Does that make sense? So if you do want to make these a pop, and it's really hard to get the nice flat brim that way as well once you have the pop on there. So I always make these as non-pops, right, just as bites, and then I turn them into pops later if that's the look that I'm going for, so that I can get that great flat red on the bottom and then the flat brim on the bottom as well. So there's my tip for that. If you're going to make these pops, turn them into pops at the end. The wider the brim, the more chocolatey. Yes, that's very true. The hat's never straight, so no stressing about a wonky hat. Yes. I would struggle making like a leprechaun hat, for example, because I would like these so precise. But because this is a cat in the hat and it's always droopy and fatter at one end and wonky, like these make perfect pops for that reason. Again, I just make sure that before I start dipping in the red, I make sure that I give the red a little shake so the surface is nice and smooth, and then just dip straight in and straight out to give myself that nice straight line all around the pop. If the top of the chocolate is a little bit messy and you go and you dip, you might not get a straight line. So just something to think about. Let's see, is there any other questions? Nope. Adorable. Thank you so much for explaining. You are so welcome, Ashlee. I'm glad that makes sense. The flour foam is a great idea. Thank you, Margaret. Yeah, I always use flour foam for sure. It makes a huge difference to be able to hold pops. I usually have like 5 around, but I paint them all in different colors to match whatever party I'm making them for. So I'm a little low on flour foam right now. That's just plain, and been meaning to buy a new one. Anyway, so that is it for these Dr. Seuss cake pops. Are there any questions that I might not have gotten to or might not have explained very good that you would like to ask me now? I am actually going to be out of town next week, And so I am not doing, I'm not doing a live next week because I'm going to be in California at a conference, and I'm obviously not bringing all of my camera gear with me. It would be a little bit hard to do a live stream in Palm Springs. For any of you that are bloggers and are watching, I'm going to be at Alt Summit. I'm going to be doing a help desk, helping people with their YouTube channels if you have any questions about that. And then we will be back the Tuesday after, and it'll be St. Patrick's Day stuff, something. I haven't decided yet. It'll be something for St. Patrick's Day. I've already made a video on corned beef and cabbage. I've already made a video on my pot of gold cake. That was last year. And I've already done a video on my shamrock pizza. So that's kind of what I do for St. Patrick's Day. So if you guys have any St. Patrick's Day recommendations or something you'd like to see, leave it in the comments and let me know. Seussical the musical, that would be, yes, these would be absolutely perfect for that. I love Dr. Seuss, but when I heard that there was a Seussical musical, I was like, I don't know. I have not liked the Cat in the Hat movies. I love the Horton Hears a Who movies, but the Cat in the Hat movies have always just been a little annoying. So when I have season tickets to a local theater here in Utah, and this year they had Seussical, and so I was like, I don't know if I really want to go. So I was a little bit kind of negative about the whole thing, and then we went, and oh my word, it was so cute. I really, really liked it. I did. I thought it was adorable, and I'm so glad that I gave it a shot and that I went. So if you have a chance to see Seussical, it's super, super cute, especially at a well-done theater. It was really, really fun. The theater that we go to, had aerialists that were performing amazing aerial work during the whole show. Yeah, it was really fun, so I recommend it. And this would definitely be perfect for cast party. St. Patrick's Day macaroons. Tammy, that is actually a great suggestion. Marie, I want to say thank you so much for this spinach artichoke dip. You love that recipe. Me too. That is one of my old school recipes. I've been making that since Japan days. That's when I started cooking from scratch. My eggnog, spinach dip, homemade tortillas, homemade bagels. Anyway, a couple of those are like my old school recipes. Been making them for 17 years now. That's when I really got into cooking from scratch, 17 years ago. So I'm so glad that you like that recipe. It is one of my kids' all-time favorites too. One of their most requested recipes for sure. Seussical is more about Horton. It does have Horton and Seussical as well. That was super cute. I actually really enjoyed Seussical a lot. Have fun in California. I love it there. I will. Thank you for sharing. Have a good trip. I will. I'm super excited about it. It's been a while since I have actually had a trip. I've been staying home and working. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I answered all of your questions. And don't forget, if you make any of my recipes and share them on social media, don't forget to tag me, Ashlee Marie Cakes, hashtag Ashlee Marie Recipes, or hashtag Make Some Awesome. And I'll follow all of those, the tags and the hashtags, and I will share them on my Instagram stories. So thank you again. Happy Dr. Seuss birthday next week, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks for my next live. So have a great week and weekend. And